you can use that money, which they estimated even at 1/3 of 1% to be about $6.5 billion. You can use that money to retire municipal pension and also state pension debt, because that's a big issue here. You have the Commonwealth Foundation, you have ALEC, you have the State Policy Network, you have all these different kind of like offshoots of ALEC and these corporate entities which are advance their issues, whether it's low pay or trying to take away workers' economic rights. You have them actively pursuing to try to privatize a lot of pension funds here, and you see this all over the country essentially here, but they're at it. And what you could say to them and say, well, as a populist measure, I'm sure you would agree that you would say, well, wouldn't you think Wall Street and the financial institutions down in Center City, Philadelphia, should be paying their fair share in terms of financial transactions, and how are they going to get away from that? And this is a very populist message, which if they were to oppose it publicly, then I think it would be pretty obvious as to who they're really protecting and who they're there to benefit. So, that $6.5 million, even at the 1/3 of 1%, would almost pretty much wipe out a lot of pension debt, at least in the near term, until they would expire. It depends on what level you're talking about. But it would go a long way.
Sorry to interrupt, but when they're estimating it at $6 billion,
$6.5.
This estimate are those just transactions originating out of Pennsylvania? Because in what we have, the one number we know is a hard number because it's actually collected is the Wall Street sales tax that's on the books in New York City that's refunded, and that's 0.34% just on stocks, because when it was made, as we know, stock, mostly what was traded were stocks, derivatives weren't invented. So what and that we know yields $20 billion annually.
Right.
0.34% on stocks to the city of New York, even though it's refunded. So I'm just wondering where the $6 billion came from and how that works.
Well, that was a figure both this fellow named Tim Potts, he works for the intermediate school level board, so he liaisons between all the different state school level boards, which basically collect most of the bulk of your state taxes are done to the school boards. And so he's at the intermediate level, which is like the different caucuses, Northeast Caucus, Central Caucus, right? So they liaison between the state Treasury Department and the state legislators, and also between all the different 600 some odd school districts here in the state rather. So he was able to say, because it was introduced as a bill in the late 1990s, under the I think it was I'm trying to think of the name. He went on to head up the Homeland Security. I'm forgetting his name, the Republican. So under his administration, they introduced the bill, and it didn't go anywhere. But they were saying at that time it would have been about $6 billion, which was like, wow, that's a lot. That's at the full 1%. Now the fractional amount is about the same amount now, but you see there's less activity here in the state. There's less speculation. And this is not Wall Street. But then again, there still is enough that it should be done at the state level. I've actually called up the Department of Finance at the state level and asked to get a figure. They couldn't even give it to me. They were like, well, we don't really know how much speculation is going on between hedge funds and, pension funds, and how much these different, money market funds, how much speculation they're getting involved with. So it's a problem. And it's a problem in that not only, because there was a tax here in the 1950s, all the way up to 1950.
Oh, there was. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, there was a state-level tax. So, and that was, I think, maybe 1/10 of 1%. It was a much smaller fractional amount. But the point is that it was there. And so, again, this is like you're seeing incursions against the New Deal at that point. The New Deal was starting to weaken after FDR as the leadership of the New Deal. After he passed away and died, there was less attention being paid to, speculation, and now we see the result of that, and it's kind of really taken over in terms of finance. So I think that being that it was already there, just go up, find the old...
Yeah, most people don't know that different times in our American history in different states, and even at the federal level, we had the Wall Street sales tax.
Exactly. It was there. I mean, again, going back with even New York State, the reason that they instituted that was because of the collapse in 1893 under the what's his name, the one Democrat president, Grover Cleveland. He basically yielded to Wall Street. He let them take over the finances, and then it was a total disaster for a long time. So the states were looking for a way to generate revenue. So in 1904, it took them that long to figure out what to do. They finally put a tax in to be collected at the Treasury level. Then that was mainly to take care of a lot of infrastructure and a shortfall in taxes. So that fractional tax acted as a template for a lot of other states to do the same thing. Pennsylvania being one of them, and that was enacted all the way up until the early 1950s, like I said. So it was on the books. Just go back and find it and resurrect it. That's my thinking. So that's one way we can advance the causes of the progressive taxation here in terms of the American system and the Tax Wall Street Party and the UFAA. The other thing is the idea of national banking. So whenever I go into discussions with people and I find the opportunity to, when they say we don't have the money.
We know you to be a real student of national banking.
Of course, without a doubt.
You're one of the experts in the country on this subject.
Thank you.
So please tell us.
Is this a break?
Or Dr. Webster Tarpley. We don't know if the Reverend Edward Pinkney will connect today. We hope he does. But in the meantime, we have our Tax Wall Street Party legal consultant who might have some information on where we go from here. But before we do that, hi, Jeffrey Jackson. Before we do that, I want to cover another important austerity topic. Jeffrey, you were a couple days ago, you were at the Texas State Capitol testifying on behalf of a proposed homeowner protection amendment to the Texas Constitution. So this is big. This was a big deal. This is an austerity topic, and you're changing history like the rest of our guests. So can you tell us about it?
Yes, Daniela, thanks for having me on again. I appreciate it. I was 2 days ago. As always,
Jeffrey.
Yes, I was 2 days ago at the Texas State Capitol in Austin. I was testifying on behalf of a bill that would amend certain Texas laws to make it clear that the Texas 4-year statute of limitations does not apply to homeowners who have claims that they were the victims of predatory lending with regard to home equity loans in Texas. It's been a big problem in my practice. Certain court rulings have held that the homeowners are limited to 4 years from the date of the closing to bring claims that they were the victims of predatory lending. We're holding out hope that we can move this Texas constitutional amendment through the House and then through the Senate, and that it is ultimately going to be approved by the Texas voters. It's something that obviously I'm personally interested in because it is directly related to my law practice, my foreclosure defense practice here in Texas. We got a great reception from the Judiciary Committee that I went before. They seemed interested, they seemed engaged, and they seemed concerned about predatory lending to Texas citizens. Now, one of the issues that did come up, just to give a little context to this, is why it was so necessary to protect homeowners from predatory lenders in Texas. And as I explained to the committee, when the large financial institutions were blowing up the housing bubble in the early and mid-2000s, a lot of people around the country, not just in Texas, took out home equity loans because their houses were being appraised at such high values. Well, the values that they were being appraised at were, of course, inflated and ballooned because of the activities of the large financial institutions with such loose credit. And so what ended up happening to not just a lot of Texans where I am, but to people all over the country, is they took out home equity loans, and then housing prices crashed, and all of a sudden they were severely underwater on their home equity loan. And to add insult to injury, the economy, of course, was largely dependent on the housing market, so a lot of people lost their jobs and ended up getting their homes taken from them in situations where if the home values would have remained where they should have been, they would have either not gotten a loan out or they would have been able to pay it back. So it was just another scheme or scam, if you will, with these by the large financial institutions to end up foreclosing on people through creating the housing asset bubble. And so that's something that I am personally trying to prevent from ever happening again here in Texas through promoting constitutional amendments like the one that I just spoke about.
What's become clear to me today, hosting this show, is we've had back-to-back people who are brilliant out fighting for all these austerity, every different austerity issue around the globe. We've had Stewart, and it's just amazing how much work's being done for our future. Adam's running, and he's moving ahead in the race for county commissioner, and he won a lottery to be first on the ballot there. So that's a big boost because they're all nobody has name recognition. There's no big incumbents in that area, so it looks like Adam has a good chance at getting in, and we are marching forward. Jeffrey, could you just explain to the audience, if we don't end up getting Reverend Pinckney, where we go from here legally? It's time for the next phase of the case. Do you want to tell us where we go from here?
Yes. Well, you can actually follow Reverend Pinckney's case now on the Michigan Court of Appeals website. You can search for his name. I can throw out the docket number here. It's docket number 325856. You can
What's
search
the website? Do you know the name of the website? How people reach it? Michigan State Court of Appeals?
Yeah, if you just Google Michigan State Court of Appeals case search, it will take you right to a screen where you can either type in the defendant's name or docket number, which is what I just gave out. Again, docket 325856. There's already several entries here, and the latest one is from April 29th, notice of filing of the transcript. So it looks like that just over a week ago that the transcript was filed with the court, which is one of the first steps to obviously brief the case in the Court of Appeals and have the Court of Appeals consider it. I don't see here, nor am I aware of any brief deadlines. I don't believe those deadlines have been set yet, but I'm not completely sure about that. But the information is here and available.
What does that mean about the transcript? Does that mean that we have the transcript in hand, or do we still need to purchase it? Because there was that question of the $6,000 transcript fee. Has it been transcribed, or have we just filed to be able to have it transcribed and gotten to us?
No, it appears that it has been filed. So I think that I don't want to speak for Reverend Pinckney because I have not personally spoken with him in several weeks, and I know you guys were trying to get him on, and he would be better to answer this question. But it appears to me that the complete transcript has been completed and filed at this point. But really, all I'm going on here is what I have here and looking at on the website. And it's a rather extensive transcript. It looks like we've got 3, 6, 8 days of jury trial, then we have 1 day of sentencing, and then we have some motion hearings too. So we are moving forward. It's all obviously taking a little bit longer than Reverend Pinckney had hoped for to get to this phase, but we had to go through those hearings, those post-trial hearings to be able to get the record for